Hello there. First things first, I'd like to make something explicitly clear. This video will have subtitles, although if you would prefer to just read the script, that will be linked in the description down below. With that said, I hope you enjoy this video and find some usefulness out of it. Yo, the name's Z, and see, I got a problem. I got a bone to pick with everyone who's saying that 2011X is underpowered. This man is anything but weak, and it's got me doing the speed try not to laugh face every time I see some chat message in-game or a comment on YouTube about 2011X being bad. So, I'm here to give you some of my personal tips that help me fall clear, at least somewhat consistently, if not always. I hope you find this helpful. If you do, please share this video around so other people can get good, so to speak. I'd like to let it be known, though, that everything I'm going to say should be common knowledge if you're already a good or competent 2011X player. So, if you fit that bill, you can feel free to dip. Thanks for stopping by, though. Firstly, I would like to talk about his M1s. As of right now, to the best of my beliefs, there are two servers that do affect how you'll perform. Outdated servers with the previous new hitboxes, which is merely just a large square in front of you, and up-to-date servers which revert the old hitbox system where it's a giant sphere around you. Most of the time you'll be in outdated servers, but it's still useful to know. Or maybe they didn't revert the hitboxes at all, but I heard from another YouTuber, that being Bunny the Hut, that they did. Either way, you're going to want to be conservative with your M1s. If you get into a habit of holding down M1, then the survivors can easily get used to the pattern and shoot you out each time. When this happens, you should stop M1ing, but keep following behind them. Then, when they jump, try to M1 wherever they land. Against Knuckles and Eggman especially, I'm going to be controversial here and say you should hit Eggman's counter, that being his energy shield, but you should not hit Knuckles'. This is because Eggman's counter stuns you for very little, and the stun can immediately, wear off, causing you to get back to chasing him, resulting in him more than likely using Jetpack Boost once you catch up, and then from there you can chase him down because, well, now he's defenseless. He's out of Jetpack Boost to get away, and Energy Shield to defend against your M1s. Now, if he runs into a group, then you should proceed with caution, but still try to take him down, especially if you landed on especially if you landed a hit on him before. Now, if you hit Knuckles' counter, however, not only does he stun you, but he also ragdolls you for a while. This can be disastrous, especially on maps like Not Perfect or You Can't Run, where a landed counter can send you far away, due to these maps having easily accessible high ground for survivors, and, in Not Perfect's case, a void that sends you back to your spawn location if you fall in it. So, just wait for Knuckles' counter to end. It doesn't last very long, and then hit him. If the Knuckles jumps right before the counter ends, do not jump with him, hit him when he lands. Something else very important to bear in mind is that 2011X's M1 damage is not random like I've seen some people say it is. In base, that being without rage mode, it does 42 damage to normal survivors. Of course it does 21 damage to metal because it has 50% damage reduction. Sorry about that. In rage he does 50 damage, and in LMS, or solo if you prefer, it does a varying amount of damage for each survivor. For Tails, Cream, and Knuckles, it does 21 damage, assuming, of course, that they start at full HP. You have to hit them 8 times in order to kill them. Knuckles is a special case, as in his punch stance, all M1 damage is reduced to just 15, so assuming you only hit him while he's in punch stance, it will actually take 11 hits to town him instead. For Sonic and Amy, they'll take 4 hits, and that's because Sonic takes 46 damage because of guilt, while Amy takes 42 because, I don't know. They're essentially playing the game normally, even though they're the solo. Eggman takes 36 damage, which means he only takes 5 hits. If I were to wager a guess, it's because on some maps it's very easy to loop the Executioner, so he needs to be less durable to compensate for that. And Metal, the most troublesome of them all, will take a whopping 16 hits, assuming he starts the LMS at 100 plus HP, so he'll be healed to 165 HP no matter what, and you only deal damage to him via M1. I'll talk more about solo and who you should prioritize being the solo later on, but I think you already know who my pick is. Secondly, there's Invisibility. This move is your bread and butter. You live and lose by invisibility, as it is your main method of getting around the map and finding survivors. When you hit a spring, you will be launched into the air due to having lower gravity, so take advantage of this to ascend on the high ground without the survivor seeing you, unless they're Tails, due to his Animal Instinct passive, or Amy with the World, as it highlights everyone on the map, even you, when you're invisible. Regardless, you are going to want to use this knowledge to, well, let's say jump scare them. I hate to say it, but using invisibility to appear right in front of the survivor is almost never a good idea, unless you use the instant teleport input. Let me explain what I mean, because some of you may think I'm referring to the traditional invisibility tech, wherein you uncloak just far enough away from a survivor that you aren't put in the found you animation and are stuck in NLAG. So, when you're invisible, if you move closer to a survivor, they will become highlighted to you. Get even closer to them and their name appears in the bottom left of your screen. If there's multiple survivors within range, they become numbered. By pressing the number on your keyboard that's designated to their name, you will appear behind them instantly. I believe this puts invisibility on a longer cooldown than normal, but I'm not sure. Feel free to correct me on that. And in addition, I'm not really sure how this works on console, as I am not a console player, but I know for mobile you probably just have to tap the name. Anyways, this special input is especially useful for Metal Sonic, as you can use it to get close enough to him to put his name in the bottom left, and then move away so his indicator stops beeping. At least I think that's how that works. And then, when you see him start healing, press the number that was last associated with his name, and you'll immediately appear behind him and be able to punish him. Though, do note, if you get closer to a survivor, another survivor, who is in that same position, like say, Metal Sonic is in position 1, and then you move away from him and get next to Knuckles, who retakes position 1, then I'm pretty sure if you press 1 you will appear next to Knuckles instead of Metal Sonic. Don't expect this to always work though. Some Metals are smart and will not attempt to heal unless they're either near Eggman or Tails, or if they see other survivors are in chase, indicated by the target appearing on that icon in the top right. To summarize, abuse springs when you can, and make sure to use the invisibility tech to uncloak without NLAG. You can use the instant teleport input sometimes, but do not rely on it, as it's ultimately worse than just doing the normal invisibility tech outside of certain circumstances. Fair warning, though, be ready for a lot of people to hate you once you start doing this. Thirdly, I'll talk about Charge. This move's a utility that I see a lot of people underutilize. First things first, it's the one way you can find out if someone is on mobile. Allow me to explain. On PC and console, you break out of Charge's grab by inputting the direction that appears beneath the progress bar. For example, if you see A or left arrow beneath the bar, it'll be an arrow if you're on console. You can time it with the lines coming in from the sides and receptors, but that doesn't influence it a whole lot. What you basically want to do is just tap that input repeatedly until another input appears. So W, S, or D, or up, down, or right. Regardless, if you're over 45 HP, it takes significantly more inputs to break out of the grab, but if you're under 45 HP, it takes much less, leading you to be able to break out the grab unless you're grabbed at under 30 HP, in which case, you're basically dead unless you're on mobile. Because on mobile, all you need to do to break out of Charge's grab is to mash your phone screen. This leads to people breaking out of grab incredibly quickly and taking very minimal amounts of damage. I'm talking 30 to 20. For a comparison, I, a PC player, am only able to ever break out of Charge's grab once I take 50 to 60 damage. That is with and without timing bidirectional inputs, by the way. I've seen other people who later say in chat that they're playing on mobile break out of Charge's grab while only taking 20 or 30 damage. The difference is staggering. Now that that's out of the way, Charge can be, and should be, used to immediately down a survivor. After you land 2 hits, the survivor should be within range of dying to Charge's finishing hit. Since Charge one-shots at under 15 HP, this used to be under 25 HP, but it's been changed. And 2 M1s will put most survivors at 18 HP, exceptions being Metal, of course, and Amy if she has the Emperor. So all you need to do is land Charge on the survivor and bam, they're down or dead. Of course, be wary of stuns, but do not be afraid to be stunned mid-charge up, as that will reduce your cooldown to 16 seconds, whereas if you get stunned while grabbing a survivor, the cooldown will be increased to 34 seconds, locking you out of your most effective instant down or kill tool for a while. Overall, Charge is your best method for downing survivors after you've hit them twice. Just be sure not to charge into a countering Knuckles or a shielded Eggman, as it will slow you down a lot. There's one last thing I'll mention about Charge when I talk about solos, so be on the lookout for that. 4th, God's Trickery. There's not really much to say about this move, as it is self-explanatory. He'll turn invisible and reappear behind a random survivor, poised to attack them depending on whether or not they input their movement options properly. Blue means don't move, orange means keep moving in any direction, black means to jump. You don't have to be immobile. As long as you're airborne as the EXE hits you, you'll avoid the damage. And distorted means don't move, the same as blue. Why there's 2 for don't move, I don't know. No one knows. I guess the devs just wanted to be funny. Anyways, it should be noted that there will be a second version of you, a Mirage, that also appears behind a random survivor. But you will have no indication who that random survivor is, as for some reason, they do not become highlighted to you if they're hit by the Mirage. Just thought I'd mention that, because it's weird. Anyway, assuming the survivor you hit fails the quick time event, they'll have their vision impaired and take 25 damage. Do be aware that the vision impairment is only temporary and it hardly influences how the survivor plays against you. This is basically only useful if you've completely lost track of the survivor you were chasing and want to bank on finding them again, or triggering a chase on someone else, or if you're avoiding a stun. It has a 3rd utility in solo, but again, I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. This is easily 2011X's worst ability, so don't bank on hitting people with it unless they're inexperienced. Just use it to catch up with a fleeing survivor, or to start a new chase if you lost the person you were after before. 5th is Rage Mode. This is what I like to call your crutch. After having your meter filled on the left completely, you can tell it's been filled because the X over Rage Multipliity icon will turn into a check, and the icon's red eyes will be visible afterward. Not to mention, you and every other survivor will hear a very noticeable ding ding sound effect, and you'll immediately recover from the last stun to give you Rage Mode. If you want to ensure you build range within a match, as long as there's a Metal Sonic in play, you should get a decent chunk from him alone, as he stuns you the longest and stuns you once you kill him, which gives you a decent portion of Rage Mode. If there's no Metal Sonic, your best bet is Knuckles, although if the timer is nearing 120, do not be surprised if the Echidna is being conservative about his strength. Giving an EXE at 120, that being the final 80, is the biggest throw any survivor could do. We all know about that one meme after all. So for that reason, you want to prioritize getting stunned more early in the game and less in the late game. As long as you fill Rage Mode up before 120, you should be in a good position. Now, assuming you do have Rage Mode, whatever you use it is ultimately up to you. Here's 3 situations in which I almost always use Rage Mode. Situation A, every survivor is on their last life. Situation B, Metal Sonic is under 50 HP and within chase range. Situation C, the time is nearing or is at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Situation A ensures you'll have easy access to Last Man Standing or Solo, as long as you, unless you get juked by literally everyone, you'll be able to kill at least one or two people and get sufficient time back to take care of everyone else. Situation B ensures that you'll be able to kill Metal Sonic, who is easily your biggest bane, as he can cost you a lot of time and distance with Destructive Charge alone. Situation C is a bit of a last resort. If everyone is on their first life and near full HP, you may as well not even bother. You're just wasting your own time by delaying the inevitable. Only do this if you're confident you'll be able to kill everyone but one person to trigger solo, as it's not worth it otherwise. You can also use raid mode immediately after you get it if it's early in the game, as that will give you a massive lead near the endgame if you play your cards right. As for the specifics of the mode itself, you become much faster, making it so when you land in M1, the speed boost a survivor gets, which would ordinarily create a lot of distance between you, does hardly anything at all. You have You have stronger M1s, they do 50 damage and linger for a bit more time, but you have a 2-second cooldown between each one. Charge takes its grab damage much faster. Your stun time starts off small, being 1 second, but increases drastically as you get stunned more and more. The only exception is if you get stunned after the survivor you grabbed breaks out of charge, or you get interrupted in the middle of the grab. Invisibility becomes a global highlight, although you're slowed down massively while it's active, and God's Trickery becomes completely unusable. One last tip for raid mode is that you should combo Invis into charge. That way you can see who's near you while you're charging up, rather than having to blindly guess with zero agency. Other than that, be smart with your M1s, as you lose a lot of time for missing just one or two of them. Just like in base, wait for them to jump and then hit them when they land. Sixthly, and ultimately finally, solos. Now we get to the fun part. Here you essentially get to choose between two paths. Path 1, I like to have fun. You hard focus one survivor while leaving the other alone. This ensures that the survivor you're saving for solo gets a near full heal. Assuming they aren't healed at all after being downed and revived, they'll be at 125 health once solo starts, or if they were full health, they'll be at 165. And then there is of course Path 2, I hate fun. You get one survivor down to 1 tap, that being 18 HP, unless they're aiming with Emperor, then hard focus the other one until they're dead. This ensures the survivor you save for solo gets barely any healing, unless they're stuck at, assuming that they're stuck at 18 HP, they'll be healed to 83, which is hardly anything, especially if they're Sonic. There is also Path 3, where you skip solo altogether by quickly killing one survivor, and then taking care of the other one in the short time before solo is triggered. You have like 5 seconds. This is basically impossible to go for, but when it does happen, it's pretty hilarious. So, now that that's out of the way, you should pick your battle wisely. Let's go through the list, one by one. Deus. He has a 15-second cooldown for both of his abilities. His arm cannon has an arming time of 1.5 seconds, and he takes 21 damage per M1 you land. Knuckles has the glide passive, which can prove troublesome on maps like Not Perfect and You Can't Run. The most consistent tools for stuffing you out: punch to stun you when you get close, counter to stop your charges, and he also takes 21 damage per M1. Unless, some punch dance, then he takes 15 damage, then he takes 11 hits, as I said before. Eggman has the double jump passive, which can be frustrating to deal with in certain spots on every map. Jetpack boost to quickly get away from you, especially after you land a hit like, by Jove, that man zooms! And energy shield to counter your charge. But he takes 36 damage per M1 instead of 21. Metal Sonic has the most damage reduction, only taking 10.5 damage from your M1s, a very reliable mobility tool in Destructive Charge, and depending on his HP, he can even use self-repair mid-chase to get back to 150 HP radius. Amy has a plethora of card decks, but will most often be going against the Sun, which can heal her all the way up to 100 if you don't land hits on her intermittently. Hammer and Hammer Throw can stop your charge if she's up close or mid-range from you, and her secondary card, either Fool the Emperor more than likely, will make her even more tenacious to deal with. Cream also has the glide passive, which can provide the same issues as Knuckles on maps like Not Perfect and You Can't Run, a dodge passive which can completely nullify charge if you don't get rid of her dodges, an instant heal which heals about 5 HP, and dash gets reduced to a 6-second cooldown which can make her extra agonizing if she can consistently bash her head into yours, as it gives her a decent speed boost. Did I mention she can use heal to heal all the way up to 200 HP total, by the way? Sonic has a lower cooldown on Drop Dash and can peel out immediately after landing the third hit of Drop Dash. He also has the Guild passive, which makes him take 46 damage from M1s, which does apply to his dodge passive as well. He's also the fastest survivor in the game, so depending on how good he is, he'll have you constantly playing catch-up through the solo. So, how do we tackle all of these? Well, first off, let me get something out of the way. Never leave a cream for solo in Not Perfect or You Can't Run. Trust me, there is nothing more agonizing in this entire game than being unable to do anything about a cream just gliding through the air above you, and you can't do anything about it throughout the entire solo because she just keeps hopping from spring to spring, and you can't touch her to get rid of her dodges, and she's constantly healing. It's just not worth the risk, man. Kill the hell out of that rabbit on both of those maps. Now that that's dealt with, your odds of winning the solo actually depend a lot on the map. On maps with a lot of easily accessible high realm, like Not Perfect and You Can't Run, the solo is going to be tough no matter who you leave her last, assuming of course that the survivor is competent. Your odds of killing the solo survivor are higher on Green Hill and X's Castle. Hold on, I need a drink. Much better. Here's my personal judgment of who you should and shouldn't go for solo, either based on the map or other factors. For Tails, you should do a solo on Green Hill, as there's no real good snipe spots that he can't easily be accessed with through your own means. Without the use of abilities, I mean. And there's also X's Castle, which sucks for Tails. Like, honestly, if you lose a Tails solo on X's Castle, you just gotta hold that. You should not give him a solo on You Can't Run, as there's plenty of snipe spots that are hard to reach him without using your abilities. And Not Perfect, as there's literally a video by Fatumiti, I think. Hold on, let me look it up. Yeah, it's Fatumiti. Showing why Tails is great on Not Perfect, and, you know, please don't let him push you off into the void in a solo. That's salt in the wound. For Knuckles, you should do X's Castle, as there aren't that many great glide spots for him to take advantage of, but you shouldn't basically any other map. Green Hill has a good glide spot for him near the bridge or area of the map. You Can't Run is basically made for Knuckles. That map is full of glide spots. Do not challenge a competent Knuckles to a solo on You Can't Run. You will lose. Not Perfect is basically a good map for every survivor, but has great glide spots for him via all of the towers on the map. For Eggman, you should do X's Castle, as there aren't many spots he can use to abuse his double jump outside of faking a lot of jumps, which is easy to counter. Just play smart and he should be easy pickings. But you shouldn't basically any other map, but especially Not Perfect. If you want to know why, just watch either of OBVN's solo videos where he's on Not Perfect. As for You Can't Run, he has plenty of good double jump spots and can be a general nuisance, and he has a real annoying loop on Green Hill that I personally like to abuse when I play Eggman. If you know, then you know. For Metal Sonic, you basically never want to have a Metal as the LNS, unless he starts at under 100 HP, because his damage reduction can make downing him very rough. You can negate this somewhat by landing charge, as that's unavoidable damage that's not affected by the damage reduction, but if they're a mobile player, then again, charge is basically worthless. For Amy, it basically depends whether or not she has some. If she doesn't, then feel free to go into the LMS on just about any map. If she does, please don't leave her for LMS if she's shown competence earlier in the match, as you will likely not win and then complain about how Sun in LMS is unbalanced and Amy needs nerfs. For Cream, I know I went on a whole tangent earlier, but you want to avoid a Cream solo as much as possible. She's just genuinely annoying to deal with in solo if she's at all competent, and even without being able to stay gliding through the air for a majority of the time. For Sonic, do on just about every map. All a Sonic solo boils down to is whether or not the Sonic can outlast you enough to, no pun intended, break free. For this reason, he's easily the best LNS to go for, as he not only has the most consistent variables, but also has a passive that literally makes him easier to kill. One more moment, please. Alright. Now for some general tips for each solo. For Tails, do not use charge unless the Tails has already used glide. You do not want him to fly away in the air from you and be powerless to do anything about it. When he starts arming Arm Cannon, immediately use Invisibility. Do not use God's Trickery as he can avoid it, and then immediately fire the cannon, stunning you and allowing him to get more distance from you. For Knuckles, it's pretty much the same as Tails. Don't use charge unless the Knuckles has already used counter. Also, be aware of springs, as the Knuckles will most often use them to glide from the high ground rather than continuing with the chase. Follow him from below, then strike him where he lands, but be prepared to avoid a punch if you feel one is coming. For Eggman, good luck. A good Eggman is your biggest pain in a solo, especially on Not Perfect. Just be sure not to use charge until he's already used Energy Shield, and you should be golden. Also, use God's Trickery when he uses Jetpack Boost, as it's a faster way of catching up to him if you were to use Invisibility to manually keep up with him. For Metal Sonic, use charge after he uses his, as this will ensure he has no way to avoid your charge besides duking you out. He should be competent enough to not use self-repair after he loses chase from you, but if he's not, be sure to hit him with an M1, as he will take full 42 damage as opposed to 10.5. At least the last I checked. For Amy, avoid her stuns as much as possible. They're on extremely short cooldowns, and she can very easily stuff you out the entire solo if she's competent enough to do so. If she throws her hammer, use charge immediately, as this is free damage that she can't do anything about, assuming of course that you land the grab. Be patient, even if she has some. The more impatient you get, the easier it will be for her to juke you out and land her stuns. For Cream, I honestly have nothing to tell you. A competent Cream on a good map for her is a true combo that results in your defeat. Make sure you land M1s on her to get rid of her dodges, then hit her one more time, as this will get rid of them completely and ensure that when you do land a charge, you don't get fake stunned. As in, you walk slowly as if you were hit by Knuckles or Eggman's counter stuns, but you don't get put in the stun state at all. For Sonic, just play smart. This is easily your best chance at winning a solo. Sure, his drop dash is on a lower cooldown, but his peel out is not, and there's no one he can pick up to reduce his cooldown to just 24 seconds either. If he lands all hits of drop dash and then uses peel out, wait a few seconds, like 3 or 4, and then use God's Trickery, as you'll immediately appear before him and he'll have nothing to use against you for 16 or so more seconds. Remember, he takes 46 damage, and that does apply to dodge meter, so if he's at 20 or 30 dodge and is using drop dash, avoid that like the plague. You do not want to have to land 2 M1s to get rid of those dodges. Alternatively, you can use charge to get rid of his dodges as well, but he'll more than likely have drop dash once he breaks out of the grab, allowing him to get a free dodge right back from landing all 3 of the drop dashes, or just one. In conclusion, alright, I've finally run out of things to say. So, I hope what I've said in the minutes before helped you learn something, and you're able to be more effective as 2011X in your public server meshes. One last thing I'd like to mention is that supposedly 2011X is getting a rework in version 0.5, and what I have to say about that is, no. Here's what I have to say about the consensus that 2011X is bad and or needs a rework. 2011X isn't a bad executioner. Far from it. He doesn't need a rework. He doesn't need buffs. If anything, he needs enough. Just to invisibility. 2011X is a tactician. You move with a plan and act according to that plan. The moment you turn your brain off and mindlessly try to kill anything in reach is the moment you forfeit your right to victory. Just be smart and patient, and don't be afraid of stuns. They do give you your crutch after all. And now, with that, I truly have nothing else to say. If you found what I said useful, again, be sure to be sure to share this video around. You can like and subscribe if you'd like to, but I don't really do content creation, so that's not really something I care about. Be sure to have a good day and life, and yeah, see ya.